At this point in the course, we've built a few circuits, but we've probably spent more time troubleshooting them than it took us to build them. So I just want to talk about some of the things that I do to build circuits in a more organized manner, and then they go together faster and I spend less time troubleshooting them. So I start off by assigning power and ground rails to the top and bottom of the breadboard, the red and blue lines. So for the red line across the top, I would assign that to, say, the plus VCC. And if there's a minus VCC, I would connect it to the red line on the bottom. Now the blue lines between the two, I join them together with ground wires, and I have those coming out each end of the breadboard. I place my decoupling capacitors right here along the power supply rails, and those will help filter out any oscillations. I'm going to start building the circuit. I'm going to start a timer here, and let's see how long this takes if you do it in an organized manner. So I'm going to start off with the 47K, and I put that part in. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to connect one end of it directly into the 10 volts and then the other one into the breadboard. I'm going to jumper across the bridge with this little white wire here. So that's this wire, and that's going to get into my pot, which is going to be on the bottom half of the circuit board. So there's my pot. One end of the pot goes to the white wire. The other end of the pot goes to minus 10. So I'm going to use a color-coded wire here as my negative rail. So this is a red wire, like so. That will now get me minus 10. And then the input capacitor, let's put that in there. So that is that leg done. Let's move on to the next path. That's this one here. We start with a 3.9 k ohm, which is here. I have cut down the legs on some of these parts. Makes things a little cleaner. Everything sits down lower to the circuit board. Gives you less grief. So there's the 3.9K on the plus 10. Then I'm going to put in a couple of diodes here. I'm going to put in one here, like so. Then I'm going to put the other diode in and use this one to bridge across to the other side, like so. There's my diodes. Now I can put my 3904 in, and the diodes go to the collector, EBC. I'm going to put my transistor in like this. The emitter has a 390 to ground, so I'm going to put in, or 390 to, sorry, minus 10, so that goes to that rail. So that leg is done. All I need to do is put in the base wire from here to here. Let's use this blue one. Go from here, get in there, over to here. For some reason, and I don't know why this is, we go through rolls and rolls of this wire. There's all kinds of wire around here. You can get wire in this kind of color. I use a lot of this stuff. We go through rolls and rolls of it, but students seem to have one color 6 inches long. When you start cutting yourself some wire bits, hang on to them. They're really good for circuit building. At this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this thing on. I'm going to power it up, which it actually is powered up. And I'm going to dial in the bias point. I'm going to try and set this to this point here, point A, to 0 volts. So I put my meter on there. Dial, dial, dial. 1 volt, half a volt, 0.4 volts. It's about 150 millivolts it's sitting at right now. So that's a good bias point at that point there. This is a good time to check that out before you put these two guys on. Is basically what I'm doing is I've confirmed now that this part of the circuit is actually working correct. So now I'm going to go from the diodes to 2 transistors. So let's use a couple of slightly different colors here. So let's go purple here off of one diode, blue and purple. There's a couple of wires there. And let's put this in over here on what will be the base. So this will be the bases to the next stage. Got a 3906 here. That's going to go down here. So it's EBC, another 3904. That one's up here, EBC. Let's join together the two emitters, like so. So there's one. So I'm putting a little wire between the emitters. And then I'll put a load resistor on from one of the emitters to ground. So that's going to go to ground. So that goes to the black line down here. All I need now is basically this one needs to go to +10. And again, I'm going to use these short little ones. So this one's going to go in here. That should be +10. This should be -10. So EBC, collector goes to -10, like so. And there I should have a functioning circuit. Circuit built in 5 minutes, 14 seconds. Let's see if it works. Put that on there. Bring all the grounds together. Sine wave, so there's the input. So there we have the final input versus output. Input is 1.16, output is about 12 volts. So that's about the gain that we're expecting. That's in around 10. So that looks pretty good. All told, circuit up and running 6 minutes. If you got problems, you can see the circuit. You have no problem getting in there and figuring out what's wrong. I could have even made some of these wires even shorter and cut them to length so that they're not in the way. Build it in an organized manner. It will be easier to troubleshoot, easier to see what's happening, and your labs will go faster.